Hi, my name is Hunter Cruz and I work for the Cruz Publishing Company. This week I read The House of Hades by Rick Riordan. It is the fourth book in the Heroes of Olympus series, which is the sequel to the original Percy Jackson series. The book has two stories going on during it, one in Tartarus with Percy and Annabeth, and one above ground with Hazel, Nico, Jason, Piper, Frank, and Leo. The Tartarus story kicks off with Percy and Annabeth falling into the pit going to Tartarus. They weren't able to keep track of time, so they don't know how long they fell. They eventually start to see the bottom of the pit, and there is a river. Percy uses his water controlling ability from his dad Poseidon to cushion their fall into the river. The river tries to entice them to stay because it is full of souls, but Annabeth gets to shore and saves Percy as well. While on the shore, they see that they have rashes on their skin. They have to climb down a huge ridge while the rash is getting worse to get to the River of Fire, which is the equivalent of Ambrosia in Tartarus. They drink from the river and get better. They trek more and get attacked by Imposi, but get saved by a titan named Lapidus, who Percy threw into the river Lethe to brainwash him into thinking his name was Bob. And Bob gets them safe and lets them rest. They travel more and find a Hermes shrine and rest there, and when they wake up there is a bunch of food. Then they have to face off against Aria, which is the embodiment of all curses, and everybody who that is killed gives the person that killed them a curse. They tell Bob the truth about himself, but he kills all the area and saves Percy and Annabeth anyways. As they go forward, they get cornered by more monsters and have to get saved by a friendly giant named Damison. They go to his house to rest and get ready to go find the Doors of Death, which is their escape out of Tartarus and back into the real world. They find it and have to fight a bunch of monsters guarding the doors, but Percy and Annabeth are able to make it there, but Bob and Damison sacrifice themselves for them. And whenever they make it to the Doors of Death, they meet up with the others. The overworld story starts off with Hazel, Leo, Nico, Piper, Frank, and Jason on the Argo II ship after Percy and Annabeth told them to meet them at the Doors of Death at the end of the last book. Hazel gets summoned by the goddess of magic Hecate and goes on Arion, her horse, to find her. Hecate says that there are many paths that Hazel and her group can go on. They can go backwards to Rome, but Gaia, the main villain of the series, is expecting that, and they would probably die. They could go west to America to prevent a war between the Greeks and Romans, or they could go across east the mountains where they would be most likely to survive. In all three, Percy and Annabeth would die at the Doors of Death. Then she says there is one more path, which is the most dangerous, where they would go through a secret passage to Bologna, then Venice, then Epirus, where the Doors of Death are. She chooses the path and goes back to the ship. She chooses the one where she goes through the secret passage. As they go to Bologna, Nico says they will have to go through the House of Hades to get to the Doors of Death and need barley cakes and potions to survive. At Bologna, they get raided by bandits, and Jason and Leo have to go and get their stuff back. At Venice, they find Trip, who turns Nico into a python and poison Hazel, and makes Frank go get him a specific kind of barley in order to help them and turn Nico and Hazel back to normal. He does this, and Trip helps them get prepared for the House of Hades. They continue towards Epirus, and when they make it there, they have to descend into it while eating barley cakes. Nico summons undead soldiers as they fight to the Doors of Death, and when they reach it, they have to fight a Minotaur who is blocking it. They defeat it and save Percy and Annabeth, and they have a picnic before finding out that the Romans and Greek war has already started. That is the plot of the book, and I believe that it should not be published because of how long it is and how bad the pacing is. I think that the Tartarus sections are really good and really well paced because I really cared about Percy and Annabeth, but the overall parts are really slow and they feel like they're just filler. I think the book would have been much better if there was much less of the above ground and more in Tartarus. Whenever it cut from Tartarus to the top, I got mad because I cared a lot more about what was going on underground. The type of reader this would appeal to are preteens or people who just like mythology or the Percy Jackson series in general. In its current form, I think it should be burned before anyone else reads it because of its major pacing issues and the lack of care I had for anyone other than Percy or Annabeth. Thank you for watching.